everyone, welcome to my channel, Babbling Books. So with Valentine's Day right around the corner, I thought it would be a good time to do some romance recommendations. Once again, please excuse my rapid breathing. I'm trying to get over this virus. I listened to myself on one of the previous videos I posted. You can hear me breathing. I'm very sorry, but it is what it is until I get better. So, right into some romance recommendations. So for one that's more contemporary, I have the McLeod Brothers series by Shannon McKenna. So this is not book 1. I think this is book 4. Some background on the series. You have 3 brothers, the McLeod brothers. Their father was, I want to say, a Vietnam vet, and he suffered from really bad PTSD, so he took his whole family to the middle of nowhere and taught them to survive completely off of the grid. So all of the McLeod brothers are proficient with weapons and explosives, martial arts, things like that. When these books take place, they have all grown up, joined different branches of the military. They got out, and I believe they started like a security firm. So this one covers one of the McLeod brothers' friends. His name is Nick. Nick was an FBI agent. He has left the FBI. An operation went badly, and one of Nick's informants, the bad guys, took his daughter. So Nick has promised this man that he will do everything he can to return his daughter to him. So when the book starts, Nick is undercover on his own mission. He's completely by himself. He is working for this crime lord. He is on an island. The only way on and off this island is by boat. And the whole island is just populated by these incredibly wealthy people who all have these really ornate cabins. And Nick is there getting ready for this crime lord to show up. Down this pathway through like some woods is another house, and the main female character, Becca, is staying at this house. Her fiance recently publicly humiliated her, so she's at her friend's cabin and she's just taking a break from her life. Well, she gets completely plastered, and she decides that she's going to go to a neighboring cabin where her friend told her, oh yeah, the guy that owns it, he doesn't mind if we go swimming there. He's hardly ever there anyway. So that's where she goes. Well, she doesn't realize that this cabin was recently sold to the crime lord. So she shows up, she decides to go skinny dipping. Nick sees her through the security cameras. He thinks that the crime lord has basically like baited a trap, trying to test his loyalty. So he pulls her out of the pool, ties her up, starts to interrogate her. Becca is completely freaked, as you can imagine. Nick realizes that he's made a mistake, and he lets her go. Well, he doesn't try to make amends with her because he's glad that by scaring her, she will not come back, and therefore she will be safe when this crime lord shows up. Well, the next day, Becca wakes up. She's pissed off that this guy treated her this way, and she left her glasses at the pool. So she decides to go back, get her glasses, give this guy a piece of her mind, and of course, when she shows up, it is just a few minutes before the crime lord shows up. To save her life, Nick claims that she is a chef he has hired, and now Becca is embroiled in this mess that she wanted no part of. Nick now has to decide if he is going to break cover and protect her, how he is going to get the two of them off this island alive and still get the information that he needs. So, like I said, that's book 4 of the McLeod Brothers series. They're all romantic thrillers. It's one of the very few romantic thriller series that I really enjoy. And that is the McLeod Brothers series by Shannon McKenna. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Another contemporary one is the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. I do not have book 1. I'll post a picture of book 1 up here. I loaned it to my oldest. His girlfriend has it. Excuse me. So sorry. I cannot wait to get over this cold. So anyway, so the Off-Campus series. It's a new adult romance series. It takes place at Briar University. The three main characters are hockey players. They're the all-star hockey players. And book one, well, all of them really. Each hockey player meets a girl, a woman, and the girls are all very artsy. One of them, I think, is a theater major. One of them is I believe she's a painter. She does some sort of art medium. And the other one is a singer. And, I mean, you just follow their life as a new college couple. Some of the guys have some things in their family lives that cause difficulties. Some of the girls have some past experiences that cause difficulties. And it's just really, reading about two people in their early 20s going to university and trying to make a relationship work. I really, really enjoyed them. The sex scenes were hot. And like I said, they're very, very, very modern. So there's lots of, contemporary music and texting and things like that, which is quite a bit different than a lot of the other books that I'm going to be recommending. A lot of these that are sitting over here are pretty old. So you have Julia Garwood on her Splendor. So this is basically about Highlanders. So Highlander romances have gotten very, very popular since Outlander came out. These, in my opinion, are better. Don't come at me, but I like these a lot more. So Honor Splendor is the first one in the series. It's this one. And it covers, it follows the story of Duncan and Madeline. So Duncan is a Scottish laird, and he has come into England to meet an English lord named, I can't remember. It's Madeline's brother. And when he gets there, they basically, the English lord's guys attack him. They tie him to a stake in the middle of the courtyard during a snowstorm. They strip him of most of his clothes. They take off his boots. And they're going to leave him to die from the elements. Well, Madeline sees this. She's horrified. She thinks that her brother is cowardly and treacherous for treating this man this way, who came to her brother honorably. So she waits for the guards to leave. She goes to Duncan. She cuts him free. She helps him to some of these outbuildings. She warms him up and she tells him, "You were a fool to trust my brother. Do not come back here. I will not be able to save you again." Well, what she doesn't know is that Duncan was well aware that he was probably going to meet with treachery if he came to this meeting. So all of Duncan's soldiers have surrounded the castle, and they are waiting on a signal from Duncan to attack, which is what happens, and Duncan takes Madeline with him. So one of the amazing things about Julia Garwood's writing, her heroes, they are all badass warriors. They are very masculine and strong and all of those things that you love with, heroes in romance novels. But not a single one of them is a jerk. The heroes are kind. They are noble. They are brave. They behave with honor. They are trustworthy. They are wonderful, wonderful examples of strong male leads that do not suffer from toxic masculinity. So, highly, highly recommend you look into Julia Garwood's historical romances because they are well worth the read. My favorite, Honor Splendor. Great book. Next is Johanna Lindsey. This is book one of her Mallory family series. So these are Regency romances. Book 1 is Love Only Once. So, like the Bridgerton series, these take place during the Regency, and they follow the Mallory family. So, the Mallory family, they're just so much fun. So, the oldest Mallory brother is a peer of the realm. He is a lord. One of the brothers is a black sheep that nobody talks about. He has his own book. I think his book is book 3. So good. They're all rakes and hellraisers and gamblers, and they keep mistresses. All the fun things that you like reading about in Regency romances are in this series. So, highly recommend it if you are trying to find a Regency romance to read. The Mallory Family series by Johanna Lindsey is so much fun. And there you go, in case visually, Johanna Lindsey, Love Only Once. That is book 1 of the series. Fantastic series. Okay, I'm going to call this book contemporary because it does take place a lot closer to today's times than a Regency romance. But this was published in 1989, so it is contemporary, but it takes place in 1989. And that is McKenzies Mountain by Linda Howard. So, Linda Howard has standalone modern romances, and she has some standalone historical fiction or historical romance. I love all of them. I have every single one of them. I have read every single one of them, and I have loved every single one of them. So I only picked my 2 favorites, my top 2 favorites to talk about. And the first one is McKenzies Mountain by Linda Howard. So this is book 1 in one of her series. And this is the one that takes place in 1989. So you have a sort of prim, proper woman named Mary, and she is from Georgia. And she takes a job to be a school teacher at the local high school in a small town in Wyoming. While she's looking over the students' records, trying to familiarize herself with her students, she comes across a file where the top student of the school has dropped out. And she, of course, is very concerned, and she decides that she is going to go find the student, talk to his parents, and get him back in school. So, she gets in her little car she brought from Georgia, and she tries to drive it up a mountain in Wyoming in the winter. And as you can imagine, the car stalls out, it gets stuck in the snow, and she's in this hot mess. A big truck coming up the mountain as well stops, helps her, and it is the main character, the hero, Wolf McKenzie. This is his mountain that she has tried to drive up, and it is his son who has dropped out of school. So when Mary meets Wolf, she realizes that he is a half-breed, which is what he calls himself. He's half Native American and half white. I did not realize that being a half-breed in 1989 in Wyoming was such a big deal, but according to this book, it is. So the town does not like him because he is half Indian. And also, as Mary finds out, Wolf McKenzie is a convicted rapist. He is a felon, which is another reason the town doesn't like him. Well, after meeting him and he helped her, she doesn't believe that he is a rapist. Her mind is just blown that people would think that about him. And you do find out that he, in fact, was innocent. But then a murder occurs in the town, and everybody wants to blame Wolf McKenzie because he was a convicted felon. Mary stands up for him. She will not let people talk badly about him. It turns into this whole big thing. So now they're trying to figure out who the murderer is. Wolf is trying to keep Mary safe. Mary is trying to make sure Wolf's son finishes high school so that he can become a fighter pilot. And it's just a lovely, lovely story. The rest of the series is actually about their children. So that is the McKenzie series by Linda Howard. It was excellent. Loved it. Another Linda Howard book, a standalone, is Midnight Rainbow. And I actually want to say this is the first book of hers that I ever read. Yeah, so you have Grant. Grant is like I said, all these books are kind of old. You have Grant. Grant is a Vietnam vet, and after the war was over, he went back to Georgia, where he just enjoys being alone, and you can tell he suffers from PTSD. He gets a phone call from an old war buddy and says, I need a favor. And Grant owes this man. And so he says, what is it you need? And his war buddy tells him, there's a senator whose daughter has been taken captive by some drug lords down in South America. I need you to go get her. And Grant agrees. So now Grant is outside this drug lord's compound, and he's expecting to rescue this woman that's in distress. And as he is observing this compound, trying to figure out how he's going to get in, how he's going to get her, how he's going to get out, he sees that she's just lounging by the pool, drinking mimosas and chatting, and just seems to be having the time of her life. And Grant's pretty disgusted because this party girl doesn't even seem to realize the situation that she's in, that she has all these people back home worried about her, that his ass is back in the jungle, last place he wants to be, because of her. So the whole book mostly consists of the two of them fleeing through the South American jungle, trying to escape all these cartel people. Sometimes they're fighting the cartel people, sometimes they're fighting the elements, sometimes they're fighting each other. And Grant soon finds out that she is not what he assumed her to be. And that is basically it. Absolutely loved this one. And that is Midnight Rainbow by Linda Howard. Next, Karen Robards. I also own every single one of her standalone novels. Love them all. Some are historical, some are in current day. Once again, current day is subjective, because some of these books, of course, are from the 90s. Yeah, this one's from 1990. But this is one of her historical romances, and it is one of my all-time favorites of hers. So, this one takes place in Mississippi, and you have Jessie. Jessie is about 19 years old. She is an ugly duckling. She lives on a plantation in Mississippi with her stepmother, and she's very lonely. Her stepmother is not a nice person, and Jessie's closest friends are her horse and her dog. And one day her stepmother, Celia comes home and says, look, Jessie, I'm getting married. And Jessie's not having it. She has the only hope that she holds on to is eventually the plantation will be hers. And she will be worth something by owning and caring for this land. And if her stepmother, who owns this property, marries, it becomes her stepfather's property. And there's no telling if she'll ever get the property back. So from the moment she meets this fiance, her stepmother's fiance, they are fighting like cats and dogs. They are butting heads, and they do not like each other at all. What you as the reader know, but Jessie doesn't know, is that this fiance, Stuart, is not who he says he is. He's actually a riverboat gambler. He got in an altercation over a game of cards. The guy, I want to say, drew a knife on him, and Stuart kills him. When he's rifling through this man's pockets, he finds this letter from these two old women basically begging their nephew Stuart, come home, help us take care of our land. And Stuart's like, okay, I'll be Stuart. I can do that. And let me see what I can get from these ladies. So he dresses himself up as Stuart, shows up with this letter, says, hey, I'm your long lost nephew. Let me help you. And they take him in. And that's how he meets Celia. So then when Celia and he start this romance, he decides that he's going to marry her, and he's going to live out the rest of his life as a rich gentleman planter. So that is how he comes into Jessie's life. So he's a fraud. But he does intend to do right by the land, to do right by Celia, and to try to take care of Jessie. So even though he's a lying, cheating gambler, he really does want to do the right thing in the situation that he has put himself in. So, of course, he and Jessie start getting to know each other. They start falling in love. And where the rest of the story goes, you'll have to read to find out. Now, their physical relationship does start while Celia and Stuart are married. So there is cheating, and technically he is her stepfather. So if those things bother you, grab another one of Karen Robards' books. They're all absolutely fantastic. I particularly just enjoy this one the most. Next, you have Katherine Anderson. Now, all of Katherine Anderson's books are about cowboys. Some of them are in modern day. She's still writing a modern day series. I mean, I think it must be on like book 12 or 13 by now. I prefer her historical standalones the most. This one is one of my all-time favorites, but I love all of them. Like, they're all 4.5 star ratings easy. But this one is one of the 5 ones. So this is Cheyenne Amber by Katherine Anderson. So you have Laura. Laura is a Boston born and bred heiress. And she meets this man named Cheney, who weighs a piece of shit. And she insists on marrying him against her father's wishes. And she does. And her father disowns her. And now she has no value as far as her husband is concerned. So he treats her terribly. But when the book starts, you only, like, that part is told in like a page. And the book starts, her husband is gone. She is by herself out west in the territories. She's in this ramshackle, leaky cabin in the middle of nowhere. She has just given birth by herself to her first and only child. And while she was trying to bring water from the creek to the little sad, scraggly garden she was trying to grow, she passed out because, just had a baby. And when she wakes up, her child is gone. Her child has been taken, what she suspects, by bandits. So she saddles her skinny, sick nag, goes to town, and she's begging any and everyone to help her. Nobody will help her. And somebody says, go see if Zeke Sheridan will help you. So she tracks him down in a saloon. He has been drinking. He's filthy from being out on the trail. And he is not very well educated, so his grammar is poor. And he's just sort of just rough. He's just a roughneck. And at first, Zeke sort of starts not making fun of her, but he's sort of having a little bit of a laugh at her expense. And then he really starts to pay attention, and he realizes that she's got dirt all over her, and she's got some blood in her hairline, and she's weaving as she's talking. And he starts to realize that this woman is literally in distress. And he offers to help her, and it becomes a battle of wills and of learning to understand each other, because she's very hoity-toity, and he, I think, probably doesn't have beyond maybe a 4th or 5th grade education. And one of the things that Katherine Anderson does so well is all of the women in her books are either in a very undesirable situation or they are recovering from trauma. And all the male characters, they may be gruff, they may be a little bit crude, they may use very, very poor grammar, but at heart, they are all gentlemen. They are trustworthy, honorable, and kind. And that's the magic of her books, because you usually have these women who fell for a man who played the part of a gentleman, but on the inside, they were terrible people. And so when they meet the hero of the novel, they do not appear to be heroes. And the female characters have to learn them. They have to get to know them. And they start seeing the shiny prints on the inside. So I love Catherine Anderson's books. They just feel wholesome, even though they're really not wholesome. But they're just wonderful. There's something beautiful in a romance novel about watching two characters heal their pasts together, and two people that have lost trust in humanity gain the ability to trust again. So anyway, Catherine Anderson, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful romance author. So next is an author that I actually came across last year, and that is Sarah MacLean. Oh, her books are so much fun. So my favorite series by her are the Bare Knuckle Bastard series. And this is book 1. And this one is about Devil and... oh my goodness, I want to say Chastity. Devil and... oh, I can't remember her name. Okay, so the Bare Knuckle Bastards are these 3 people, 2 guys and a girl, that showed up in the Rookery in London when they were children. And they slowly took over the Rookery. So they're the lords of the Rookery. They all speak with like a Cockney accent. And Devil is his name. He's the main character in the first book. And he carries like a black cane with a silver topper or handle on top. And he's got like a top hat. And so he's like rocking like this like turn of the century vampire vibe. And he's got like these big silver rings on his fingers. Anyway, he just sounds... anyway, so they're the kings of the Rookery, and they keep their people safe. And any like prostitution, smuggling, gaming hell, any of that illicit activity, they're in charge of it. They're in control of it. But what makes this series so fantastic is the female characters are very modern. Their ideas of what it means to be a woman, very modern. What they should be allowed to do, even though they're females, very modern. They do not fit into society. They do not want what society tells them they should want. And the best part is that these bare knuckle bastards, they don't try to change these women. They do not try to convince them to shrink their dreams, to just be happy with their lot in life. They encourage them to be who they are and to go get what they want. Absolutely love this series. The other series that they wrote, or Sarah MacLean wrote, is The Rule of the Scoundrels. So this series covers the 4 owners of this gaming hell in London. And what makes this gaming hell special is that all 4 of these men were members of the Ton, and then some catastrophic event occurred and they were all shunned. And they got together, opened up this gaming hell, and it has become the #1 most desirable gaming hell in London. If you are anybody worth knowing, that's where you gamble. So these 4 owners, to get admittance into their gaming hell, you have to tell them a secret. You have to give them leverage. That is how you buy your membership, not with money. So they are incredibly powerful in London, both within the Ton and within the more undesirable areas. So the Bare Knuckled Bastards and this series, they are separate, but they're in the same world. You'll hear little references about characters that you've met from other series, but it doesn't really matter which series you read first. And just like the Bare Knuckled Bastards, this series also has a very modern feel to it. The female characters are incredibly unique. One of them actually seems like she has Asperger's. She is, she's very, very different and incredibly intelligent. But she most certainly does not fit into society very well. She's a bit of an oddball, but I find that to be very refreshing. Most of these books I talked about, especially the older ones that were from the 70s or the early 80s, all of the women are very feminine and tiny and dainty. And while I do enjoy that sometimes, I find Sarah MacLean's books to be very refreshing. They have a very modern feel. They're clever, they're witty, they're fun to read. I laugh out loud multiple times. So, those are my romance recommendations. Let me know if there's anything that you would recommend to me based off of what we've talked about here. And let me know if there's any content that you would like to see. But thank you very much for clicking on my video, and happy early Valentine's Day.